In this video, we are going to go through the example problems for loops. Our first example asks us to write our own factorial function called myfactorial that will calculate the factorial of the number n. The factorial of a number is just 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times all the numbers between 1 and whatever number you're finding the factorial of. So 7 factorial is 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7. Before I jump into coding, I like to maybe write down my thoughts. Sometimes writing down my thoughts might involve a flowchart. Sometimes it might just involve notes. Very often involves me writing out an example step by step so I can kind of see what I'm doing. And also might involve writing pseudocode. So we just said 6 factorial would be 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6. So you might remember from maybe some of your earlier math classes that we can group these multiplications kind of any way we want. We could group them like that, and it's still the same thing. We could also group them like this. We could say 1 times 2, and then that number times 3, and then that number times 4, and then that number times 5, and then that number times 6. So at this point, I see that the number I'm multiplying my product by increases by 1 each time. So I start with a value of 1, then I multiply by 2, then I multiply that number, 1 times 2, by 3, then I multiply the whole number there times, or let me kind of draw this out like that. So I start with 1, I multiply by 2. Then I take that number and I multiply by 3. Then I take that number and I multiply by 4. Then I take that whole number and I multiply by 5. Then I take that whole number and I multiply by 6. So this tells me I know exactly how many times I want to do this repetitive thing. So that tells me I'm going to use a for loop. So if I'm just writing notes, I might write for. Our for loop, because we're multiplying, it could start with 1, because 1 times 1 is 1. Or we could skip a step and notice that our first multiplication is times 2. So I could say for, let's create a variable. I almost made one of the mistakes on the common mistakes on for loops. For j equals 2. And then my step size I increase by 1 each time. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I could include that. So I could say step size of 1 and end at 6. I could also say j, because the default step size is 1, just 2 to 6. That's the way that I typically go. So that's what I'm going to write for j equals 2 to 6. So essentially what I have here, I want to keep increasing my answer until it's my final answer. So we could say that 1 times 2 is equal to f, and then f times 3 is also equal to f, and then f times 4 is equal to, I think I skipped that one, f times 4 is equal to f, and then f times 5 is equal to f, and then f times 6 is equal to f, and that gives us our final value of f, the factorial. That also assumed right there that I had a starting value, f equals 1, because I can't multiply f times 2 if f is nothing. If I haven't defined f yet, I can't multiply anything by f. So I'm definitely going to start with f equals 1 above here. And then in here, I just said f, or let's look at this loop. F, what is it equal to? It's equal to my increasing value, which is j, times f. So f equals f times j. End. Before I go code this, I want to make sure that it's going to work. So I like to step through it real quick. J equals 2 to 6. So I'm going to write j equals 2, j equals 3, j equals 4, j equals 5, and j equals 6. Even if you don't do this before you code, let's say you just want to jump into coding, that's okay. But if you have a bug, come back to this step because it's going to help. So we start with f equals 1. And then we go into our for loop. And then we have f equals f times j. So f equals f, which is 1, times j. So f is now 2. And then we loop around. We have j equals 3. F equals f, which is 2, times j, which is 3. So f is now 6. Next, we loop around again. We're back here. F equals f times j. F equals f is 6. J is 4. 24. One more time, we're going to loop. So we're going to loop back to the start. F equals f, 24, times j, 5, 120. Last loop. F equals f, 120, times j, 6, equals 720. We have ended our loop, so our output will be f equals 720. Let's go code it up. I'm going to create a new script. It's a function, so I'll start with the word function. F equals myfactorial of n. Remember, and let's add a little note to us. So written by Mallory Barkdale on 2/10/2023. You can write, your name there, of course, because you're writing this. And we can say calculates the factorial of an integer n. And if you want to leave yourself notes of what is a factorial, you can also leave those notes here. So we said we were going to start with f equals 1. We're going to go for I equals 1 or 2 to 6. And we can call that I, j, k. You can call it whatever you want. And then that's the variable that you'll use inside here. I like leaving them with I, j, k because it's quick, it's easy to write, but you can call this whatever you want. So for I equals 2 to 6, inside our for loop, we're going to write f is equal to f times I. I like when my code is nicely formatted like this. So I just went there and pressed tab. Sometimes if you've been working a long time, you're editing your code, you're debugging, everything is off, nothing's aligned, you can type Control A to select all of your code. And this is on a PC. I'm pretty sure it's Command A on a Mac, but I'm not the best with Macs. I'm a PC person. So whatever you do in a Mac, to Control all, or to select all, and then Control I to fix the formatting. You can also select your whole code, and then there is a button. Well, I thought there was a nice little button for us. Oh, there we go. Smart Indent. So you can also just select it all and click that Smart Indent button. So if you don't want to remember Control I, just select all and click that. Let's check our code that it's going to work. So my factorial of 17. And then let's use the built-in factorial function to check and make sure that that worked. Oh, no, that did not work. This is a great example. Okay, so I just calculated, I wanted to calculate the factorial of 17, and I calculated the factorial of 6. And that's because if I look back to my code, I only go up to 6. So every time I run this code, no matter what I put for n, I'll calculate the factorial of 6. And that's because my for loop doesn't run n times, it runs 6 times, or actually 5 times, because it goes from 2 to 6. So if we replace 6 with n there, click save, we can see that now our factorial function works.